Shalom, I'll give all honor and praises to Yahawah, BAHASHAM, YAHWASHI, QADASH, double honors to the elders and apostles, the great millstone for teaching this truth, surgery, exaltation to the hopeful, let that spread out the four corners of the earth. Alright, so the title of this lesson will be Maximizing Your Full Potential, and what that means, right? So, maximize your full potential, and I have it here in the Google definition. So, or the Lincoln um, definition. So, maximizing your potential requires a strong commitment to your goals. All right, this means being willing to make sacrifices, take risks, and overcome obstacles. It means being willing to put in the time and effort required to achieve your goals, even when it's difficult, right? So that's really important, when we're in this ministry, when we're in this truth, right? To maximize our full potential, we have to teach, we have to study, and plus we have, other um, extra, curriculum, things we're doing in the world, like jobs and, other stuff, right? So, it's important that, we, you know, it's important that we give our full attention to this truth, right? And, balancing it, right? And taking risk, right? And, putting the time and effort is required to, keep, to keep, you know, running the race, right? Running the race, it's written that the race is not for the swift or for the wise. All right, so when we know that this race doesn't matter how much how much time we put in it, um, no matter how much time we or to put in it or time we have to um, we have to balance it. So Ecclesiastes chapter 9, also known as the Book of Sirach. Let me see if I can get it here in the KJP 1611. Ecclesiastes 9. Ecclesiastes, like, yeah. Ecclesiastes 9. Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 11 reads, I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, neither yet bread to the wise, nor yet riches to men of understanding, nor yet favor to men of skill, but the time and chance happening to them all. Right. So let's go back into the lesson, right? Maximizing your potential, right? So, it doesn't matter um, how quick or how strong or how much wisdom or much understanding you might have, that doesn't, you know, that doesn't, that doesn't equal that doesn't equal your salvation, you know, that doesn't equal your salvation. We have a lot of brothers that that's in the truth, that have a lot of wisdom, that have a lot of wisdom, like the elders and apostles always say. There's brothers that's been in the truth for 20 to 35 years. They was deep in this truth. They was plowing, right, but guess what, they fell out, right. So, and they had a lot of understanding, right? They had a lot of wisdom, right? But they are going to know just how you can take, mm, I really don't know any brothers, but just you might know you might know some of them, but you know, um, again, it just shows how, this truth, this walk, this, race, we have to, you know, we have to work on we have to work out our own salvation. We had to maximize our own potential, right? We had to, commit our own time, right? We had to sacrifice things, you know, and we had to overcome obstacles, that going back to stumbling blocks, that might, hinder us. So I'm going to bring out some scriptures. We'll start in Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 4 reads, Then the word of the Lord Yahawah came unto me, saying, Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. So this speaking about Jeremiah, and before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nation. So sanctify me, separated. So he was separated in the spirit, He was separated to be a prophet, to be a teacher, right? To be a minister of this truth. To be separated, the word sanctified, which means to be separated, right? To be holy, to be holy. So Jeremiah, he was holy, right? Then say, I, Lord power, behold, I cannot speak, for I am a child, right? So, Jeremiah, his, going back to here, his, his, you can say stumbling block or obstacles or whatever, was that he was a child, right? He was a child, you know, but we're going to see what he did, right? But the Lord power say unto me, say not, I am a child, for thou shalt go to all that I shall send thee, and whosoever I command thee, thou shalt speak. Right? So Yahweh, Yahawah, he told Jeremiah that, I don't, Jeremiah, he probably was like 12 or 11 or 10 or 9, I don't know. But, Yahweh, he, that it's all about the spirit, right? Yahweh, he don't deal with the flesh, he doesn't care. He deals with these spirits, right? He deals with your spirit, not your flesh, So Jeremiah, he was set up, you know, in the he was predestinated to be a prophet, to be a teacher, right? That was all done in the spiritual world, right? The so-called spiritual world. So, um, so so Yahweh Shah, basically told Jeremiah that whatever he should go, whatever place, village, whatever he should go, he will be teaching, right? He will be teaching the word. 8 verse, be not afraid of their faces, for I am with thee to deliver thee, says the Lord Yahweh. Then the Lord Yahweh put forth his hand and touched my mouth, and the Lord Yahweh said unto me, Behold, I have put my words in that mouth. That mouth, his mouth, which goes back to his mind, right? It goes back to his mind because Yahweh he was supping with Jeremiah, right? So mouth, right? I have it here, which means in mind, right? So in the mind, you have it here. So ultimately that was Yahweh Bashar supping with Jeremiah, and pulling his word, you know, um, and teaching him. Um, See, I have this day set thee over the nations and over the kingdoms to root out and to pull down and to destroy and to throw down, to build and to plant, right? To plant, which is going back to, plant seeds, to teach the word, to prophesy, right? I have it here in the NLT. Today I appoint you to stand up against nations and kingdoms. Some of you must root and tear down, destroy and overthrow. Others you must build up and plant, right? Which going back to teach, right, and to bring in the righteous people, right? To bring in the to bring in the elect, or to bring in the you know, to the bid to the marriage, to bid the ones to the marriage. All right, so I'm going to jump from here to the 17th verse. Thou therefore gird up thy loins. So, Jeremiah, he had to gird up his loins and arise and speak unto them all that command thee. Be not dismayed at their faces, lest I confound thee before them. Right? So Jeremiah, he had to gird up his loins. Right? That's gird up your loins, which means prepare oneself for something difficult or challenging. Right? So gird one loins. Because Jeremiah, he was gonna face, he was gonna face hardship, right, in the spirit and in the flesh. Uh, no, get up and prepare. Here in the NLT it says, "Get up and prepare for action. Go out and tell them everything I tell you to say. Do not be afraid of them, or I will make you look foolish in front of them." Right. 18th verse. For behold, I have made thee this day a defense city in an iron pillar and brazen walls against the whole land, against the kings of Judah, against the princes thereof, against the priests thereof, and against the people of the land. Right? So Jeremiah, he was basically, you know, he was set up to, he was set up spiritually, he was set up to teach, right, to prophesy, spiritually he was, you know, set up to be like a brick wall, to be like a, in his spirit to, he was set up to maximize his full potential, right? He was set up like that, you know. NLT, for see today, I have made you strong like a fortified city that cannot be captured, right? Like an iron pillar on a or a bronze wall, you will stand against the whole land, the kings of fish, priests, and people of Judah, right? So Jeremiah, he was ultimately, his spirit, Yahweh, he made his spirit basically like a, I forget what it was basically like a, he made his spirit more like a, um, um, I forget the word. I think it's like, um, ooh, I might have to look it up. Uh, I don't get the, see, yeah, maybe you brothers and sisters, what I'm speaking about, but basically, you know, Jeremiah, he was, set up to, not to, set up to not faint, ultimately to not give up, to continue to preach, right, to continue to prophesy, even though the difficulties he might face to maximize his full potential, right? That how Yahweh shall set up Jeremiah 19 verse, and they shall fight against thee, but they shall not prevail against thee, for I am with thee, says the Lord Yahweh to deliver thee, right? So even though, Jeremiah, even though he was going through persecution, even though he was getting mocked and scoffed at, you know, Yahweh Shai, he was fighting on his behalf, right? He was through the angels, because the scripture speaks about, the angels are camping about them that fear me, right? Or fear Yahweh Shai. So, you know, you know, ultimately, Jeremiah, he was maximizing his full potential. He was, even though he was facing difficulties through the spirit, and difficulties through the flesh, they probably telling him, you ain't nothing but a kid. You ain't nothing. But how you gonna tell her what to do? You ain't being through nothing, right? So ultimately, through that, Jeremiah, he was getting, you know, built up in his spirit, right? Um, so this is Jeremiah chapter 20. Jeremiah chapter 20, verse 7. Um, it said, "O Lord Yahweh, thou hast deceived me." All right. So this was Jeremiah's complaint, because ultimately, um, because it was all, to build up Jeremiah in the spirit, right? What he went through, right? It was all to build up Jeremiah in the spirit, right? You know, so I'm gonna get, you know, so we read Jeremiah chapter 1, where it talks about a little history of how Jeremiah, or who Jeremiah was, and what he, what his lot was, right? Um, so it reads, "O Lord, thou hast deceived me, and I was deceived. Thou art stronger than I, and hast prevailed. I am derision daily. Everyone mocketh me," right? So everyone was mocking Jeremiah, right? Because he was a child, You gotta go back to Jeremiah chapter 1. Jeremiah, he was a child. So he was being mocked, and this is why Yahweh told Jeremiah to gird up thy loins, right? Prepare oneself for something difficult or challenging, right? And this also goes through maximizing your full potential. It requires, you know, you being willing to make sacrifices, to take risks and overcome obstacles, right? Um, to achieve that goal, to achieve that, to achieve that mission, to finish that race, to finish the course, right? So for since I see For since for since I speak, I cried out, I cried violence and spoil, because the word of the Lord Yahweh was made a reproach unto me, and a derision daily. Then I said I would not make mention of him, nor speak any more in his name, right? So Jeremiah, he was going through so much trials and tribulation, so much fury, so much trials, so much challenges in the flesh and in the spirit, it was eating him spiritually up. It was eating him. He could not overcome that stumbling block of those mockers and those scoffers. Those obstacles that was put in his path. Right, he can overcome. Well, he did overcome, but during this, in this scripture, he didn't. He was basically saying that he didn't overcome. Right, he said he didn't. No, I would not. He said he would not make mention of him nor speak anymore in his name, which is going back to the Heavenly Father, because he would teach it in the name of the Heavenly Father. But his word was in my heart as a burning fire shut in my bones, and I was weary with forbearing, and I could not stay right. So Jeremiah, his word, the word of Yahweh was in his heart, as a burning fire, and you know, he couldn't be quiet. Even though he said that he would not make mention of the Lord's name, he still had, had in his, it was through the Spirit, the only way he's able to do that, because our flesh is weak, right? The scripture speaks about our flesh is weak, but our spirit is willing, right? Our flesh is weak, but our spirit is willing, right? So it was through the Spirit, I'm not gonna go into it, but it was through the Spirit, um, was the reason why Jeremiah, he was able to, continue to preach and continue to prophesy, like Yahweh commanded him to do, right? It wasn't nothing in the flesh, this is why we have to, when we maximize our full potential, we can't be carnal, we can't be fleshly, right? We can't be, you know, we can't be rejecting, we have to we have to keep moving forward, we have to keep preaching, we have to finish the race, um, because we are all going through something in the flesh, we're all going through something in the spirit, but we have to, pray, we have to fast, we have to fight, those demons, we can't let those get to us. 10th verse, for I heard the defaming of many, fear on every side. Report, say they, and we will report it. All my familiars watch for my halting, saying, Pre-adventure, he will be enticed, and we should prevail against him, and we should take our revenge on him, right? So you got mockers and scoffers just waiting for you to, to give up. They're waiting for you to, be in a vulnerable state. They're waiting for you, the angels and Yahawah to stop dealing with you, right? Then they will, seek to kill, seek to destroy you, to seek to harm you, right? To seek to, do things to you, right? Just because you were teaching in the name of Yahawah, right? It reads, but the Lord Yahweh is with me as a mighty and terrible one. Therefore, my persecutor, because you have to remember that Yahweh told that he would set Jeremiah as a strong city that cannot be, as a strong fortified city that cannot be, overtaken, right? So, but the Lord is with me as a mighty terrible wind. Therefore, my persecutors shall stumble, and they shall not prevail. They shall be greatly ashamed, for they shall not prosper. Their everlasting confusion shall never be forgotten. Right? Because with Yahweh told Jeremiah, he will set him up as a city that cannot be overtaken, then that means that anyone, you know, any demons, any mockers, any scoffers, they can't, they can't get in the way, or they can be a stumbling block or a obstacles in Jeremiah ministry. They can be a obstacles and in Jeremiah teaching that they can't. The scripture speaks about a righteous man falling down 7 times and they get back up, right? 7 is a complete number of time. So Jeremiah, he felt the Lord was still dealing with him, right? Jeremiah, he fell for a complete number of times, but he got back up. Ultimately he got back up. He continued the race. He continued to walk. This is where we, his spirit, through the spirits, he was able to do that. But oh Lord, power of hosts, that trieth the righteous and sees the reins and the heart, let me see thy vengeance on them, for unto thee have I opened my cause. Right. So ultimately, you know, Yahweh, he will fight our battles for us fleshly, and spiritually, he will fight our battles, you know, and the only thing we are commanded to do is to do the work. There's a whole duty of the man, right, to we are commanded to do the work. That's it. Yahweh, he will handle the rest, So, it really shouldn't be difficult, for you to maximize your full potential in this ministry. Like I said, we all go through things, know, but that, it didn't start Jeremiah from, prophesying, him being a child and him being, so young. It didn't stop him from teaching. It didn't stop him from prophesying. So, we, um, there's many counts. Jonah. You can go back to Jonah. Jonah, he was set up to be a prophet, right? And Jonah, he was trying to flee away. Um, he was trying to flee away from being a prophet, and he got, I believe he ultimately got sucked up into a well belly, right? You know, but ultimately, it's just something that we can't run away, from this ministry. Can't run away from this truth. It's ingrained into us. To do it, it's ingrained into us to teach. You can't, we can't. Not, there's if we Yahweh Shah, he will make a way. He will make a way for us to teach. He will make a way for us to prophesy, because we were set up in the spirit to do that, just like Jeremiah. Going back to Jeremiah chapter 1, Jeremiah, he was Yahushua. He formed him in the belly to, he sanctified his spirit, which means which sanctified means set apart. He was made to be a prophet. So ultimately, this is our spirit. Nothing flesh. Nothing flesh. You gotta look through it you gotta look during the spiritual sense. All right. So I'm gonna jump from here to Isaiah chapter 49. Or it's like chapter 40, verse 29. So Isaiah chapter 40, verse 29. He gives power to the faint, and to them that have no might, he increases strength. Right? So Jeremiah, he ultimately didn't have no might. He gave up fleshly. In his flesh, he gave up. Right? In his flesh, he fainted. Right? But how much he gave him power. He increases his strength like a strong city. He said he will make him like a strong city that can't be overtaken. So Yahweh he was the one that increases his strength to continue through the spirit, right? So he ultimately Jeremiah, he was able to maximize his full potential because of what Yahweh increases his strength. So this is how we have to be. We have to pray that Yahweh increase our strength, that we don't faint, and that we can continue in this race, continue in this walk. So I'm going to jump from here to Job chapter 2. Because same with Job, same with Job, Job chapter 2, verse 7. So when Satan, for the presence of the Lord, because, basically, Satan, the spiritual demon Satan, he basically, he was, he will basically, among these spirits was, at the throne of Yahweh outside, he basically was telling, Yahweh outside that the reason why Job is, worshiping him and, and doing all the worshiping him constantly because, he haven't seen any trials and tribulation, right? Because Yahweh he kept increasing him. So Satan basically said, if he go down there in trouble Job and, and deal with and, mess with him mentally and spiritually and in the flesh, he will reject him, right? He will basically denounce Yahweh Shah, right? So, that's what this, this, so I just gave you just a brief, summary of before, Satan said, for the presence of the Lord Yahweh and smote Job with sore bulls from the sole of his foot into his crown, right? So we're going to go into that. Boils. Inflamed spot, right? Inflammation, eruption, boils. So ultimately, I believe that it's going to, different types of, pimples or whatnot. So, 8 verse. And he took him a pottage to, so this is Job. He took him a pottage to scrape himself with, and he sat down among the ashes. Then said his wife unto him, dost thou still retain thy integrity? Curse the Most High and die. Right? So, in this case, Job, not only was he been tormented not only was he been tormented in the spiritual sense, he was been tormented spiritually. He was also been tormented, or he was also going through trouble in his flesh, and because his dealing with his wife, because his own wife told him to curse the Most High and die. That's a, that's a, that's something that can get to you, right? Um, so in this case, Job, he had to grit his loins up, right? He had to he had to keep his integrity, right? That's what he was doing. He was keeping his integrity. But he said unto her, Thou speak as one of the foolish women speaketh. What? Shall we receive a good at the hand of the Most High, and we shall not receive evil? And all this day not Job sinned with his lips. Right. So Job, he did, Job didn't, Job ultimately kept his integrity, right? He didn't, don't give up. So I'm gonna jump from here to Peter. And, after that, Job got 100-fold, right? Job, 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 13. Wherefore grid out the loins of your minds, right? So we have to grid up our loins of our mind, be sober and hope. The scripture speaks about be sober, be vigilant, because their adversary, the devil, walk around like a roaring lion, seeking who he might devour, right? So we have to be sober, spiritually, and hope to the end of the grace that is brought unto you at the revelation of HALAL. As obedient children, not fashioning yourselves according to the former lust in your ignorance. But as he which hath called you is holy, so be ye holy in all manner of conversation. Right. So we have to be holy, we have to be willing to gird up our loins, we have to be willing to, fight those obstacles, and remove those stumbling blocks, whatever stumbling blocks it might be, to continue our walk with YAHAWASHI. Be holy in all manner of conversation was going back to, your conduct in your spiritually, in your flesh as well. Because it is written, be ye holy, for I am holy, right? So again, when we maximize our full potential, we're not fashioning ourselves according to the flesh. We're not fashioning ourselves according to the former lust, according to the former man. We are maximizing our full potential through the Spirit, through what we were, sent to do, which was to prophesy, to teach, to do whatever we, YAHAWASHI, ingrain in us spiritually, right? 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 10. Wherefore thee rather, brethren, give diligence to make your calling and election sure. For if you do these things, ye shall never fail, right? So again, when we're maximizing our full potential, we are giving diligence daily, to make our calling and election sure, to finish the course, to get that crown of life, to, and when we're doing this, we won't fail, we won't, just like Jeremiah, going back to Jeremiah, he was giving diligence, right? He was preaching, he was prophesying. And guess what? He said that he wouldn't make no mention of the YAHAWASHI name, and he would stop prophesying. But ultimately, at the end, he kept fighting. He kept teaching. He kept prophesying. In YAHAWASHI, he was ultimately dealing with Jeremiah. So go from here to Romans 8:28. Romans chapter 8, verse 28, and it reads, "And we know that all things work together for good to them that love Most High, to them who are the called according to His purpose." Again, going back to Jeremiah, all things work together for good. So all that trials and tribulation, all that mocking, all that scoffing he was going through was ultimately to build him up spiritually, to not to to just build him up spiritually, to make him not think carnally, but make him think spiritually. Right? So ultimately, this is how we have to be. We have to, we might be going through some things. We might be, there might be some obstacles. There might be some risks we have to take. But you have to remember that it all in Yahawashai will. It's all going according to Yahawashai purpose, right? All right, and you can jump down to here. 30 verse. Moreover, when he did predestinated them, he also called, and when he called them, he also justified, and when he also justified them, he also glorified. All right. So again, there's we should be maximizing our full potential, right? We should be willing to make sacrifices, to take risks, and overcome obstacles, right? To achieve that goal, to achieve that everlasting life, to achieve, that crown of life, to be, to be holy, right? So I'm going to end it here. I'm going to give honor and praises to Yahawah, BAHASHAM, QADASH, until next time. Say shalom.